villains and innocent bystanders. Welcome to another episode of An Angel and Her Unicorn comic book reviews. I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me today is...
just James.
We will be spoiling the books for the week. If you haven't read your books, you may want to take a moment, go back, read, come back in a moment later, or let us spoil them for you, because we will gladly do that in every way, shape, and form. But otherwise, if you can, like, share, and subscribe if you like our videos, or leave a comment letting us know what we could do to maybe improve them. We greatly appreciate all the input. But until then, let's go ahead and spoil the books for the week. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I can.
All right, go for it.
Let's see. Let's start with Outer Darkness.
Okay.
It's number 10, a perennial favorite.
I was like one of our
with the channel.
one of our favorites. Which, if by any way, shape, or form, the Afu-chan or oh gosh, what's his
John Layman.
Yeah, John Layman. If they are out there and they see these videos, we love you so much. I love your book so much, so much.
So
I haven't got a chance to read this one yet.
It starts with the ship both traveling and standing still, and they keep flipping between stuff of the crew being active and then the crew being infested by these plants. And you're like, what's going on? Is this a cross reality thing, or what's going on? So the crone, who's the ship's oracle, comes in and says that something's wrong, and at night we're finding more about the mythology, because we know that she also turns into a young
beauty.
Apparently that happens at night. So she comes to the captain and says that something is wrong, that her beauty aspect has disappeared, and that she can't find her cat. And the captain, who hates her cat, speaking of cats, I have a cat.
Thunder's fur is flying everywhere. He's shedding like nobody's business.
So the captain's like, your cat? I hate that cat. And he just beats the crap out of her. And his assistant, the large voodoo guy, restrains him. And he's like, why are you beating the hell out of our oracle?
And he kind of been knocking boots with her too.
Yeah. He's like, this is the other half of my girlfriend you're beating to death. And so he takes him off, and the captain's like, I don't understand what's going on. So he takes him to the brig, and they're going to try to figure out if this has anything to do with the hate knives that were possessing everybody in the last issue. And
because the captain was possessed then, but then they said that he got unpossessed, so...
Yeah. And the chief exorcist is like, nope, it's not connected. I'm certain that I got rid of that particular thing. And so it's not looking good for our captain. But then the third in charge, the admiral's daughter,
the counselor, or
yeah, she says, but it might be connected with what happened in the alchemy lab, and somebody murdered one of the alchemists with a vat of acid. And then it switches to the other world with all the plants growing out of everybody, and the crone's cat doesn't like the plants, and so there's they're questioning the guy that acided the
Alchemist.
yeah, the alchemist. He was a he was an herbalist, and
Herbologist.
he he's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He says sorry doesn't explain why you killed him. Well, he hums while he works, and it just makes me so mad. I just wanted to kill him to make him shut up, and so the exorcist is like, well, we need to get this under control before it's too late, and the counselor's like, it's already too late, and a fight's broken out in the mess hall. They're all beating the crap out of each other, stabbing each other with forks and butter knives and bottles of ketchup, and but then it flips and shows all of the people with the flowers growing out of them. So the counselor who's taken control, she's meeting with all the council heads, but they're doing it holographically so that nobody's next to each other. So when they flip out, they can't
Hurt each other.
They can't hurt each other, and they're questioning her. They says, "Well, you sent the pacification force into the kitchen to put down this little mini riot, and the pacification force joined in it and really beat the crap out of everybody." So they're all questioning each other and losing their minds, and the exorcist is trying to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, the XO, the Satalis, the second in charge who hates the captain, he and the possessed crewmen have decided that they're
Now's the time.
Now is the time to come and beat the crap out of the captain. And so then back in the flower world, the crone's cat saves the world by being a cat and knocking something off of a table.
No, cats don't do that.
That's how we know the world's not flat, because cats would have pushed everything off the side.
That is true. They totally would too.
So the exorcist had like a open flame candle on his desk, and the cat pushes it aside. Well, the flame starts burning the plant, and so then the exorcist, they're back in the flower world, and the exorcist is removing the blue tendrils from him, and he says it's hate blossoms that grew and took everybody over, and they that they feed on angry emotions, and that they weren't going to kill that. They killed the herbalist because he could have figured out what was going on, but everybody else, they were just going to beat him nearly to death, because if you kill someone, then they can't feel hate anymore.
Yeah.
And that it feeds off of the hate, so they
kind of put him in a trance to
puts them all in a trance, and and it was a shared trance, so everybody remembers what everybody else did to each other.
Oh no, they didn't.
So like the crone's still holding a grudge against the captain, and so the crone's on the bridge and she's got her cat, and captain's like, how many times have I got to tell you about that cat on the bridge? And she's like, the cat saved your life. He's like, okay, the cat can be on the bridge. And so he goes off to take care of unfinished business. So he arrests the first officer. He said, "This is the proof that I need. Even though you were under the trance, that you came in and you were gonna declare mutiny." He's like, "That's good enough for me. I can now arrest you." And he's like, "Well, what are you gonna do? Put me in the brig and try me?" He says, "I'll get off." And he's like, "No, we're going to the engine room. I'm gonna feed the engine." So.
And he's been starving the engine for a while, so the engine's gonna be very sad, or he will be real happy.
And then in the back, it says that there's 2 more issues left in this season, and the way they plotted it out was that there was going to be 3 seasons, and that each season was going to be radically different. Like new people. They said if you've gotten used to this book, this crew, and this starship, we'll get ready for some big changes and big surprises. So
that makes me
2
sad.
more issues, and then
ruining my day, James.
Well, but I'm excited because there's even more of this mythos to explore.
This world. That is one thing that I always was really neat about. I always wished was, I think that's why people latch onto Star Trek so much, because like the different episodes of the different the different shows were different. They showed different things. Like even though it was kind of the Enterprise or a facsimile or something like that, they had different premises. They had different crews. The one thing I wish they did do is they changed out the crew a little bit more, because you had like a whole crew. I mean, like a whole ship of people, but they never went beyond their cast, and you could have done so much more with so many different people, and yeah, it would have been...
The Next Generation Enterprise had a crew of 1,000, and 12 people did everything.
Everything, yeah, yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah. They did all this
Though
stuff.
They did one episode with the crew member, the lower ranking officers.
I do feel like
showed their day and stuff.
I do feel like Next Generation had more of the actual crew, because they brought in a lot of other people too. They brought in what was the engineer guy that was he kind of went he was really shy, and he was in love with
Barclay.
Counselor. Yeah, Barclay. And he wasn't like a regular, but he would come in on a regular basis and he would help. But they had they had him, they had Nico from O'Brien's wife.
They had some minor characters that would have more than one.
Right, Wesley was a minor character for a while, and then like he kind of became more and more, and then he kind of dropped off, and then he became a guest star again. And so I feel like Next Generation was definitely one that had more of that kind of encompassing feel. Voyager, not so much. I think a lot of that had to do with their
budget.
No, the actual premise, where Next Generation was more of a thing, and Voyager was by themselves. They were self-contained because they were abandoned. Anyways, we digress. Let's get back to the comic books. That's a whole nother show that we can sit there and talk about. So I'm going to do, it's by Scout Comics. It's called Heavenly Blues. It's written by Ben Kahn, and the art is by Bruno Hidalgo. So this one was kind of an interesting premise. It starts off with a guy, he's in an office, and somebody comes in and does an office shooting, and talks about how the guy, you can go to heaven, or you think if you have unfinished business things, you go to hell. If you don't think, even if you may not have been a particularly bad person, if you feel like you've been a bad person, then you can still go to the, hell until you figure out that you're not. So they're kind of as a heaven, they establish as heaven and hell. Right, exactly. So this particular guy that gets shot in the office, he goes to hell. He thinks he's going to heaven. He's like, oh, excited. Then he shoots down. He's like, no! Then he meets this guy who pours on molten gold on him, and kind of find out he's kind of like the demon that's going to torture him. And he talks about, like, I'm going to torture you.
Max, I'll be
Yeah.
Torturing you for the next millennia.
Exactly, but he's not like he doesn't look like a demon. He looks just like a normal human, but it looks like somebody else that's been in hell. As they go along, you kind of realize he's been in hell. He was in one of these pits himself, and he's kind of worked his way up or become, more self-aware of what's going on. And he meets this other girl who's kind of the same way. She's kind of been you find out that she was torturing him at some point, or the other torturer, and so they establish some of the rules and things of this world, of this hell. But it's this girl and the guy, and they go to the bar, kind of relaxing, kind of doing the decompressing, and then they get see that somebody's watching them and kind of find out it's an angel, and the angel is tasking these two kind of demons or hell people to go to heaven, and when he gets to heaven they have to steal something. And they're like, you want us to do what? You want us to break into heaven and then you want us to steal stuff? Are you crazy? Like,
what are they gonna do? Send us to hell?
Well, that's what he's like. He's like, this is not a good idea, because like this is a bad punishment. Because eventually that is something that as they become more self-aware, they can possibly work themselves up to hell. If not, if they get busted, they could go to limbo, and limbo is like supposed to be the worst place because it's like no place. You have
it's
no
like solitary.
Yeah, you have no self-awareness or anything like that. So they kind of debate back and forth whether they want to go and do this mission for this angel, and he kind of gives them a runaround of like why he wants them to do it. But he tells them that it would just be, we need to do this, and so they end up kind of going a little bit more into the backstory of one of the guys, and about how he was robbing banks, and he just wanted to he didn't want to kill anybody, but then they had robbed all these banks, but his buddies wanted to kill more people, and so they kind of got more violent. The cops show up, he's running away, and as he's running away, he gets betrayed by one of his friends who's he's like, I'm a robber, I'm a creep, why what makes you think I wouldn't betray you? I'm stealing all the money. And so he shoots him and sends him to hell. And so finally decide that we're gonna do it. He's like, I'm gonna try it and see what I can do, because maybe I can actually, because the angel offers them a way to get to heaven. He's like, if you do this, then if you do this succeeds, then you'll be in heaven. And he's like, okay. So it's kind of interesting. Like, it's really neat. I'm trying not to give too much away because I don't want to go too much into the details, because I really hope people read this book. The story is really entertaining. I'm really hoping, even though it's just an issue 1, I'm really hoping that this path that they're going down is going to be really interesting, how they're going to do this heaven and hell thing. But I like, the writing was really good.
With books like this, your biggest worry is that it'll get canceled, and you won't get the payoff of what happens.
That, or it gets too bogged down into a certain
Or you
mythos.
think it's going left and it's going right. Oh man,
Yeah.
But what would have happened if they'd gone left? So much better.
They do have a certain playground to play in. They've limited themselves to heaven and hell, so that immediately puts you into a religious box. So you have to be careful with that, because it's like, if you go too far, it doesn't make any sense, and because people already have these concepts of these areas. So I'm really excited, though. I'm hoping that they don't go into more of the like God and devil thing. It's more of a self-imposed afterlife. So I really liked what they did with this. I really liked their kind of original premise with it, or originality a little bit, and I'm really hoping that they do something fun with it. So the dialogue was really good. The girl's really sarcastic and kind of bitchy, and just, I love those characters. And the guy's kind of just like a cool hand kind of guy, but he's kind of like one of those anti-heroes where he's kind of a good guy, but he's not. It's just, he's done bad things, but he's really, he's a soft heart. And they're kind of a buddy. It's gonna be like a buddy cop show. I'm really hoping that this book sticks around for a little bit, or at least like has a finishing. But anyways, I'm looking forward to number 2. I really like number 1. The only criticism that I would have is the art is very not even amateurish. It's just very stylized to, like, it's almost cartoony. So things are kind of a little bit more distorted. Everybody's like very long faced, very long bodied. but it's very like angular and sketchy on some places. So it's not my favorite type of art, but I can if it stays like this, I can get on board possibly. But I wish the art was a little bit better or a little bit either more stylized. It's like, almost like they're in the middle. They're in this middle art realm, and it's not my favorite. But you know what? If this is what I have to deal with, then I will get used to it. So I definitely rate this book probably a 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. If the art was really good, I probably would have rated it 5. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fun kind of premise, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go, which is kind of fun. You always that's one thing that, a good book, especially number 1, where they give you enough information, set your character, set your premise. All right, let's go do this. And so I'm hoping that it goes on. All right.
Very good. So not my next one is, I want to say this right. It's Trees, Three Fates. It's an Image book. It's by Warren Ellis and Jason Howard. It's interesting. The Comic Tom site, if any of you guys watch that, they talked about this book and they mentioned a whole bunch of things that I didn't get out of this book, so I don't know if there's another source of information out there that they have access to that I don't, or if they just read more into it or what. But it's what they mention makes sense reading the book. But so it starts out in a little Hickville in Russia, and a guy is leaving his girlfriend, and
who wrote it and who did this?
Warren Ellis and Jason Howard.
Okay. The art didn't. It looked familiar, but that wasn't who I thought it was.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. And the gal's like, "You're not leaving," and you think, "Oh, she wants him to stay," and she's like, "No, you're not leaving yet because you need to take all your stuff with you too." No. And so and then you see these things coming down out of the sky, and so they're sitting here arguing, and then this gigantic cylindrical thing crashes out of the sky, lands, and squishes her boyfriend.
Or soon to be ex.
Yeah. And then and that was 11 years ago, and then it says today, and they've got these, you see these cylindrical things. Now this is where the Comic Tom site said that these are like aliens from space that landed on Earth, and apparently they're impervious to, we haven't been able to do anything about them, and they are completely oblivious to humans. We're pretty sure that they're alien, but they've made no attempt to contact us or do, they're just ignoring us. So, and he said that the world has, so it's changed the world, these things landing. So I'm not certain where he got that information, if there's a Warren Ellis website or something, but so the girl whose boyfriend got squished, this guy comes up to her house, is banging on the door, and he says, you need to come with me. He said there's a dead body, and you get that she's some kind of authority figure, possibly police or something, and so she grabs her stuff, and they're walking to go check out the the dead body. And they find this guy, and he's been stabbed and mutilated, and there's blood all over. In the background, you can see some symbols appearing on the tree. I don't know how significant that is. They don't mention, like, if she sees them, if these things happen all the time, and
if they're already on there,
or if this is like that's just never happened, and she just doesn't notice it. But so she sends the guy back to the station to get the doctor and Boris. And so she takes some pictures of the crime scene, and the letters keep appearing and disappearing, or the symbols. I'm sure that will become important later. So the people come out, and they've got this big robot thing, the Boris, that's like a crime scene investigating robot. It can take pictures and analyze things and do all this stuff. And they don't know who the body is. She mentions having it, the DNA checked, and they say, well, we might not have electricity today, and well, so-and-so's got solar and a generator, so he might be okay. And so it sounds like the world isn't doing too good, but they're also out in the sticks in Russia, so I'm making assumptions, but they say that the doctor who's got a solar panel, there's like, well, doesn't he have enough to get us 15 minutes of internet time? Well, a goat slept on the solar panel, so the batteries are dry. Stupid goats. So they head into town, and she goes by the train station, and is talking to the gal that heads the train station. And apparently this is like the only way in and out of town. And she says, I've got a dead body. I don't recognize him. Did anybody come in on the train? And she's like, no, nobody's come or gone that I've seen, and I would have seen anybody. And she says, it's just me and Oleg here, and he's home with a hangover or something. But so they're like, there's nothing, absolutely nothing has happened. Everything is fine, and there's nothing that's happened. And so they send her off, and then the old lady she had asked the gal to stay and have lunch with them, but she had to leave. And the guy's like, why did you ask her to stay? He says, because you guys screwed up. I had to think of a story, and I want her to think everything's normal. The fate of this entire town relies on her thinking everything is normal, and if she discovers that it's not, we're going to have to kill her too. Bum, bum, bum. So, interesting premise. We'll see where it goes. All this extra backstory that these other people have. I don't know if that's important. I don't even know if it's right, or if they're just making assumptions, or so. But so anyway, I'd give it a good solid 3 horns, and I'm gonna keep reading it, see what happens.
See where it's gonna go.
If it gets too weird, then I'll drop it, and if it
move along,
if it gets cool, then
you'll be on board.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna do So I subscribe to Comixology, Amazon's like comic book app, and they have original stuff that they put out. And one of the original ones that they did is called Field Trippin', and it's TRIPPING, like tripping and taking a trip. So it's written by James Asmus and Jim Festante. Art by Marie Inger and Jose Garcia. So this one, it starts off with like kids, young kids going on a field trip. They're all excited. They got the permission slip signed. They're going, and then all of a sudden this bus appears out of nowhere in the sky and lands, and it's their teacher that brings them on. And one guy's like, why has it got to be a short bus? And so they talk about, well, it's not. He's like, you know what the short buses are for? And she's like, yeah, for less people because we have a small class. And she goes, and that's it. And like, so it's typical like young kid stuff, young kids like bantering, and then all of a sudden they take off in like this weird vortex. The teacher takes them off, and they end up on this planet where the planet goes through all 4 seasons in like a short period of time. So their goal is to find one of the seasons that they want to write about or talk about, and explore it, and then they're going to get back on the bus. Well, while they're all picking their spots, things start happening. Like people start getting eaten by vines, and the plants are trying to eat them, and they finally go like, why, what's going on? And like the teacher goes, oh, I guess I should have seen the sign that says caution, man-eating plants. so she's like, everybody back on the bus. So everybody gets back on the bus. They end up actually leaving somebody behind. And one of the rules, they have rules. So let's see, she goes through like the rules are you can't take anything with you, have fun, all that kind of stuff. It's like basic. Leave only footprints, take only memories, always stick with your buddy, and don't tell your parents is kind of what. So it's kind of this little like setup for those are the rules. So they leave this one person behind. They can't find them, but they have to get on the bus and get away. And but one of the guys is trying to bring on this little griffin, baby little looking griffin, which is really super cute. So she's like, no, you can't take anything. She goes, okay, well maybe I'll make an exception because it's super cute. So they all disappear, and then they reappear on this other world where she's like, this isn't where it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be back at our thing. And she goes, so the teacher freaks out, and she's like, oh god. So she ends up like slamming the door, and she's like, we're on the wrong planet. So then she goes to another planet, and there's an asteroid getting ready to hit them, and she's like, I must have misdialed. So then she goes to another planet.
Turn left at Albuquerque.
Yeah, she just keeps turning. She just keeps going to these other planets. She's just like getting more and more frantic as she goes. So then it cuts to 7 years later, and it's it's like a different kind of art style too. But there's some people are alive, some people are not in the group anymore. The kids are older. And they've all, like, some of them have been altered. Like, one girl's got, like, this, like, robot monster arm looking thing. One guy is, like, a complete mech. Like, all is visible is his head. One's got, like, a ghost of the samurai with him that's haunting her. One of them's got, like, you see the griffin's there, and there's a pet bear. And she talks about how they kind of talk about all the stuff that's going on. And next thing you know, the teacher gets caught up, and she is wanted, dead or alive. So she's getting caught by bounty hunters. So kind of an interest. Oh, and then they have like a little backup story about one of the worlds that they went to, and it's kind of it kind of fills in some of the backstory, but not well. So the concept is really, really fun. Like it's kind of like the Magic School Bus, and I can't remember what the teacher's name was, Miss
Frizzle.
Yes. So it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like a Magic School Bus, but like a little bit of a like more messed up version, which I was like really super on board. I was like, this sounds like it's going to be fun. When they jumped 7 years later and they were all kind of weird and stuff, and one like was possessed by a samurai spirit, one was like a mech, I was like, this is going to be awesome. However, my hopes were not met. Like, they, unfortunately, the dialogue is really chunky and weird and clunky, and it doesn't quite flow or fit as well. Sometimes it's like there's a flow, and then once they get to this flow, then it jumps somewhere else, and you're just kind of like, it's very jarring and it throws you off, so you're not quite sure. The art style at the beginning is very, very super like manga, American manga-esque, like these big eyes and these distorted bodies, and they had like these weird looks to them. But it's so much extremeness that you can't tell any of the characters apart some of the time. So you can't tell who's who, and I don't think they have enough time in the beginning pages to establish who's who. So it's very confusing. You're not sure who's getting left behind. You're not sure what's happening to which character. And then when they jump 7 years later, the art change goes even worse, because then it's like another jarring effect where you're like, now they look completely different again in like one comic book. So I sure as heck don't know who half these people are. But I really wanted this really cool premise, and I thought it was going to be really neat. I just don't think it was executed very well, unfortunately. So as much as I love this book to be amazing, it was not, unfortunately. It makes me very sad. I wish it was a little bit different and a little bit better. I see things that they could have done better and maybe could have established a little bit more somewhere. I think they could have waited for the 7-year jump, or at least at the end, they could have established all these beginning things, and at the end, like maybe did like one page where it's like 7-year jump, and then show them all on this planet. But they tried to fit in two different worlds. It didn't work well for me. I didn't think it flowed well, and like it wasn't what I wanted it to be. So sadly, I give it probably 2 out of 5 unicorn horns, just because the art was really confusing, the dialogue was very confusing, and the premise wasn't quite set up as well as I'd like it to be. So good attempt, but unfortunately I didn't quite make it for me. 2 out of 5 unicorn horns.
All right. My last book is Reaver. It's another Image book. It's by Justin Jordan and Rebecca Isaacs. We reviewed this book before. One thing that I didn't notice last time, that as I was going back, I usually flip through the old books and kind of get caught up on where I am on the story, and they had they don't have any. They've got a letters page, but they hadn't had any letters yet because they're only on issue 3. But in issue 2, he kind of describes the world, and reading through this really helped. So if you're reading it, he was saying, most fantasy is pseudo-medieval Europe. There's exceptions, but that's kind of the default setting. He says, I blame Tolkien. He said that this one is supposed to be more like Revolutionary War era North America, and he's like,
I actually kind of get that.
And he said the Rail, which are the native people, were supposed to be like the Native Americans, hundreds of different tribes, not affiliated. The Imperials are British. The Escaline are French.
Huh.
They're fighting over this continent. So when I read this, a lot of it okay, now I can picture who these
all of that. Yeah.
So if you're reading this book, find issue 2 and read their little letter page. Big help. So this one, it's the premise is it's kind of a Suicide Squad of 6 six people
Yeah.
are sent to. One of the groups has some new magic that's gonna upset the balance of power, and these guys are sent to figure out what it is and possibly stop it. So the two people who have the mission, everybody else has been given poison that will kill them in a day without daily things of the antidote, and that the two people who have the antidote make it every day, so you can't just kill them and take all their antidote.
It's like a suicide squad, yeah.
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 So
Keep them in line.
it starts out with one of the guys going, starting to question them. Why do we have to do what you say? And then the poison starts to kill him, and they give him the antidote, and they're like,
Because I said
that because we said so.
I said so.
So he says, your mission today, should you choose to accept it, they see a town down below. It's it was a fort for the Escaline, and then the Rail, the natives built a town around it, because they said the fort needs things and we like to sell them to them and make money. So they send him down into town. He says, I need the head of an intelligence officer, and I need some paperwork. So
So they kind of break them into teams.
yeah. So they send him into town. There's kind of a noble and a hardened warrior type.
I would say more like a soldier. Just a
Yeah.
soldier, and then the other one's kind of like a schwarmy nobleman. He's very much like a, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey,
Yeah.
mister. And the other guy's kind of like, can we just get this done? Yes, I'm just ready to go.
So, and then the little native gal, who's just awesome.
She cracks me up.
She threatens this guy into sneaking her into the fort, and so she'll meet someone, threaten them, and then move on to the next person, threaten them.
My favorite part about her is so she's in charge of getting the head, or she's in charge of getting the documents. So she finds this guy that's gonna get her in, and she doesn't just threaten him. She's so tiny. She's like Yoda, and she attaches herself to the back, and she's riding on his back with a knife in his throat. She's just act normal. And she's just she has big flaming red hair, and she's just act normal. And just keep walking, and he's just sitting there walking along.
She's definitely my
She's
favorite.
hysterical. So funny.
So
I don't know if it's supposed to be that funny, but for some reason that just caught me off guard. I was cracking up and her riding his back.
So the other duo, they find the intelligence officer in the bar, and he's picked up a prostitute, and he takes him out back, and they're getting ready to do the deed, and they
in the middle of the deed.
They jump him and have a fight and end up cutting his head off, so they've got the head. Meanwhile, the little red-haired girl goes and she finds the documents, and right as she's getting ready to leave, somebody comes in, and she says, if you just waited one more moment, it would have been better for you and better for all of us. And she kills the guy, but ends up knocking over a lamp.
But she doesn't. No, she knocks it over on purpose. She's like a cat. she's like sitting there. She's like, if you would have came in one moment, this wouldn't happen. So she shoves over this thing, lights everything on fire, including the guy, and then she's trying to escape. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, if you would have just waited, we could have saved our whole city burning.
So then there's this backstory with the noble that the last issue he had chased this native girl down, and he insinuated that he killed her, but he didn't.
Right.
And he meets it back up with her in town and says that she needs to do another to deliver something for him. So he's up to no good.
Yeah, she's apparently brought something with her, and like he's communicating with somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm not for sure what that. I'm sure that like James always likes to say, I'm sure that's gonna be important later on.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So the two guys have the head, and they look out and see that
Whole city.
the half the city's on fire, and they're like, that's got to be our friend.
Yeah.
And so she comes by on their version of a horse, and she's like, we should be leaving now. Yes. And so they skedaddle out of town. Well, then it looks back, and the entire town is ablaze. She has torched this entire town in her efforts to get the stuff, and she says, "Mother Chaos is our friend. No one will know that we were.
Whole city gone.
No one will know we were there."
And she's like, you didn't want nobody to know we were there. We're good. Check 10-4.
So the two that the ones in charge that give out the antidote, they're like, the guy's like, okay, I know why you. I said I can figure out why you needed the documents. Why did you need this guy's head? And he says knowledge, and they open up a toolkit. So I guess they have some way of pulling knowledge out of.
Because he's kind of like a alchemist, wizard, kind of.
Yeah.
Like a magic guy, kind of sorcerer thing that they got,
So.
and then like he's got his bodyguard, who she looks awesome. I'm really wanting to know more about her,
She's
but
got
she
an
doesn't
X
talk.
across her face.
Yeah, she's just like she looks like she just like eats you alive. I love
Yeah.
it.
So, another good issue. That explanation really kind of helped me. I was having trouble figuring out who all the parties were, and that. So I really enjoy this. I give it a good solid 4 points.
Yeah, I'd say 4 or 5. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's the art's really decent. The story's really good. The dialogue's really
The
good.
characters are all unique and have little quirks,
Yeah.
and
But they're not too unique to where you can't relate to them.
yeah.
You do feel like they are. I mean, they have a familiarity. They have a trope with them, but they still are like fun and new and original. And like the art just makes it that much better because the art is very crisp. It's very like you can tell all the characters apart. Everybody's got a distinct look. Like you said, like with the where they place them in different places. Like one's French, one's maybe British. Influence. You can definitely see like where they all kind of fit into a different part of this world, and it's really kind of
like when the two guys were in the bar and they were looking for the intelligence officer, and all of the officers were dressed the same, and they all kind of had the same
blue.
well,
uniform.
but the same facial structure and all. But like they drew each they drew the guy they needed with mutton chops.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy that was kind of a bowl cut, and so you could, even if the characters kind of looked the same, that you could tell that, okay, well, this is the guy that they met earlier, and this is not the guy.
Right.
This is another guy that threatened them, and so they
really
use
well.
subtle little things to. And so many books don't do that, and it's like, is this the same guy from earlier? And
there's still several talented artists. I feel like J. Scott Campbell, talented artist, very good, amazing at what he does, but all his characters look the same. Like all his women look the same, all his men look the same. It just looks like different hairstyles. So like when they have close-up shots, it's really hard to tell. And I think this book is a little bit different. Like I feel like it's more like close to what George Perez did back with Teen Titans, where everybody had a different facial structure or different.
Like all the
subtle different
Imperials
things.
kind of have a more circular face, and the
But with
Escaline kind of have a more triangular
Yeah.
face.
So, yeah, and the jaw lines. It's just really well done. I really, really like that book. So my last book I'm going to do is Chastity, #1 by Dynamite. It's written by Leah Williams, and art was by Daniel Main. So it starts off with these guys running down a subway station in New York, and Chastity is chasing them, and she's kind of going through her little epilogue, or her, not epilogue, with dialogue in her head. What's it called? It's called something. Inner monologue. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. So she's going through talking about how she's a half vampire, half human, and she can sense, she's got all the gifts of a vampire and all the gifts of a human, so she's just like this mega thing. She's really awesome. So then she starts fighting them, and they kind of, it gives her time to dictate what she's doing and why she's here in the world. So she's fighting these people, trying to save humans. She kicks them and kills them all and throws them off the train. Then it cuts to her. She's kind of got to go to an audition. She talks about how she's a stripper, but she's trying to be an actress, and she's trying to do other things with her life. And
She's going to community college.
She's going to community college. Nothing wrong with strippers. Everybody's got to do what they got to do. So she gets on this bike, and they're like, you're never going to make the audition. She goes, I'm a lot faster than you think. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And she goes flying off. So she goes to the city, and again, it gives her more time to kind of talk about how she's kind of fast, and she does all these things. She shows up for this audition, and this old lady's just kind of like, are you here for the porno, or are you here for the, this part? And she's like, I'm here for the regular part. She's like, oh, well then, I'm surprised why you look like that. Because she's got like this red hairstyle, and it's like kind of like, like
leather.
Yeah, leather with a fishnet mesh on one leg, and it's cutoffs, and so she's like, whatever. So she's like, why are you a horrible person? So she comes into the room, and there's all these other girls, and she's like, sorry, I didn't mean to call her, the B word, and they're like, no, she is. And so they all kind of like are chit-chatting and introduce themselves, and she realizes that this one girl's fallen asleep, but she uses her inner monologue talking about her vampire senses, how she senses her heart is slowing down and getting ready to stop. So she's like, so she goes and gets her some water and drinks, and she's like, it tastes weird. It tastes chemically. Then she finally realizes that the water's drugged, so that the temperature's hot in the room, so it makes them drink more water. So she goes to the inner monologue. She's like, it's a setup. It's a trap. They're trying to get all these girls to pass out and die. So she's trying to keep them awake and trying to keep them alive. She dumps over the water, and she's fighting the drugs in her system too. And as she's fighting them, in walks a lady, and so she's like with 2 bodyguards, and she's like, it's gonna take more than some roofies to get me, because I'm big and bad, and it's gonna take more than that to stop me. Next thing you know, there's like 40 darts of like horse tranquilizers shooting into her, and so she finally passes out, and they bag and tag her, and that's where they stop. So they have the basic dialogue. We have a deadline to keep. Let's keep moving. Bag her up. Let's get her to get it. So I am not a Chastity person. I don't know Chastity, so I'm not for sure what this is all. There's probably more to this than I assume. I assume there's more books of this than this.
Yeah, she's an old character.
I mean, like, I knew she existed, but I didn't know what capacity she existed. And with this being Dynamite #1, I don't know what they were doing. Like, I don't know if they're using that as canon, or if they are continuing like a different story. I don't know. But this
She's
felt
one
like
of the characters from the Chaos comics, and like the one cover's got her and Evil Ernie,
right, and then
Lady Demon, and the
Evil
other...
Ernie. I didn't see that one. Yeah, where they're all together, and but she stands out at the it's because it's her book.
Yeah.
Yeah, the covers are really cool. So this felt very much like you were already in the middle of everything. Like you had, um,
You know her. You love her. She's back.
she's back, and I just, I mean, as
'Cause
it
this
never,
was an old cover from way back, and then so they just everybody was colored in.
Yeah.
So for this, so I assume
since
they're
it's her
gonna,
book, it's she's
and
just
then
colored.
they'll put this cover, you know, when it's
Yeah.
time for Lady Demon, and then whatever this gal's name is,
I don't know.
Evil Ernie.
Yeah.
They'll,
So I assume they're just continuing it on because they really, even though they did the internal monologue and they're explaining everything, it was more like it felt like a recap. So it almost feels like a
last
continuation.
time on.
Yeah, like, oh, just so you know, just in case you were wondering who I am and what I could do, here's what I can do, da da da. You know, and it felt very formulaic, like very like, okay, here we go. I'm gonna explain everything to you just so I can get through this stuff because you probably want to know this, but I don't want to feel like trying to figure out a creative way to put it into the regular thing. So I was not a fan of that. The art was actually pretty decent, though. I really enjoyed the art. For the character itself, it didn't seem very...
I love when the inner monologue describes things that the person would know about themselves that would never, you would never...
Why would you explain your powers to yourself?
It'd be like you going, well, my name's Alan, and I do these things with dental hygiene,
Yeah.
and it's like, why would your inner voice be saying that? You just know this stuff about yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely...
Last year I ran a marathon in Houston, and
I'm not very fast, but I'm fast, you know, for a human, and I don't... I
your
felt
inner
that's
monologue would never say that.
Exactly, like it was very much, it was there to explain things to the reader, and that was the end of it. But they did a story. It wasn't very overly complex. I feel like it definitely would have fit somewhere in the scope of like a Zenescope book, where it was just a story. It was fun art. It was good, you know, a good basic premise, basic story, just something fun to read. It wasn't like anything. And I don't feel like it tried to be something other than what it was. It wasn't trying to be like this big, trying to, you know, like, oh, this really over complex, which they could have went. But I do wish they could have found a different way to fit that dialogue in a little bit better. But overall, like, I mean, the art was good, the story was okay, the character was interesting. I just, you know, it's just middle of the road. So 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Again, nothing bad. I think. I'm not for sure. I didn't read the old Chastity, so I'm not for sure if like old fans will be on board with this or what. If this was very similar to what the old book was like. I don't know enough about that. I didn't read Chaos Comics when they were around because I was a little bit younger and that was a little bit above my.
You were not their target audience.
No.
Guys that like
I always saw the covers, but I never read it. It never looked like something that I would be interested in. So, but overall, 3 out of 5 unicorn horns, average book. That's about it. Did you read any extra ones?
No.
I read a slew of stuff. Like, so we will be very fast. So I read 3 different of the Zenescope. I read the Belle, Mystery, and Oz. We've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. Good books, good characters, good art. So yeah, just interesting. They don't try to be anything extra. They just are what they are. Belle is like in the middle of a story arc. Mystery was number 1, and Oz finished up an arc. So they all kind of finished up in their respective books or did their own
Beginning,
thing.
middle, and end.
Yep. Griffin, Galaxy's Most Wanted. This book is really funny. Like it's very entertaining. It's really funny. She's trying to save this planet, but these people are getting ready to infect this virus, and so the way that they are going to stop the virus is they're going to infect themselves with the antivirus, and they're just going to go down there and like infect everybody by shaking hands and sneezing on each other and stuff like that. So it's it's really funny. The characters are really hysterical. The dialogue's really funny because she's kind of like she doesn't want to be a hero, but she is. But she kind of does want to be a hero, but she doesn't want to seem like a hero. She wants to seem like a big, strong, powerful person, and she just is. Blue Lullaby, that was really kind of dark, but it was interesting. It had a little girl, and she goes, she gets scared. So instead of like, she's talking to somebody, and it's this monster under the bed. So you think that she's gonna be scared of the monster, but she like gets scared, so she crawls under the bed with the monster, and then kind of find out that her dad is trying to hurt her in ways that are not appropriate, and so the monster comes out, and he's like, "You're not supposed to do that," and he's like, I'm not really doing it. Why are you, I'm not doing that to her. And he's like, come on, honey, you're not. She's like, and the girl's like, no, I'm not going to save you. So the monster eats her or eats him. And he goes, don't worry, I'll take care of you. And then it cuts to another girl and her monster on the outside of the house. And they apparently are out there trying to help other little kids to survive and be, not be hurt. So
who is it? What?
It's Action Action Lab Comics. But that was kind of fun. This kind of interesting little twist. It was kind of fun. I would say probably a 3.5, maybe 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. I wish the art was a little bit more clear because it's very sketchy in some areas, but it still wasn't bad. Ignited, I think I'm gonna give up on this book. It just feels like it's not going anywhere. Like they're trying too hard to be highbrow or be political or have this stand in something, and it's just they're taking too long. It's issue 4. They haven't moved past this kind of arc. They're kind of still beating these same dead horses over and over again, and it's taken too long to establish things. And honestly, it's not that interesting. I thought it was at first, but now that they've had 4 issues of reading the same thing over and over again, they just lost it, unfortunately. So I probably give this one up. Sadly, 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. The art's really nice though, so maybe somebody's going to enjoy it. Ghost in LA. I've read this one a couple times, or I've read this series for a couple books. This is one that I didn't think I would enjoy. It is very much a dramedy. Girl goes to college to follow her boyfriend. Turns out her boyfriend breaks up with her as soon as she gets there. So she finds this house with all these ghosts, and it's kind of about her dealing with her life, and these ghosts are kind of in her life, and you kind of learn about them. Really well written. I like the art. The dialogue's really well. The story is really oddly entertaining. Come to find out in this issue, the reason why her boyfriend broke up with her is because her boyfriend is gay, and so one of the ghosts in the house he is gay, and he was a gay artist back in the day, and like they had a really hard time. They weren't allowed to be out, and so he had a really hard time with his life, and he kind of realizes that's what her boyfriend was doing, or her ex-boyfriend was doing, and so he's like, maybe you should try to be his friend, or at least try to give him a moment. I think there's something more. And she's like, no, he hurt me. I moved all this way. Da da da. So they kind of make up in this issue. I didn't think, again, it's kind of those ones where it's like it's a drama, and I'm like, nah. But it's really well written. I like that. I'm interested in seeing the characters. It's a book that I didn't think I would be interested in. So I really like it. So 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. I think the only thing that would make it a 5 out of 5 for me would be if it was superheroes. Ray was a little weird one. It had this boy. He has like powers, and he throws this train, and then it cuts to this kid getting bullied, and him and his friends. And so there's these friends that don't have superpowers, but they don't know about his superpowers. But then it ends up that his superpowers go away, and he jumps at the bottom of this lake and finds this like white energy, and he like absorbs it, and then he's fine. So I don't know if that's like some kind of cosmic energy that he constantly has to be replenished, but it's kind of like I'm not quite sure where they're going with it. Like, is it going to be a superhero book? Is it about these kids? Is it kind of like a Stranger Things thing? I don't know. Like, it wasn't it wasn't bad. Like the dialogue was okay, and I mean, I understood what was going on. It just didn't go anywhere. It took a long time to go somewhere. So and I'm not quite sure what they were going to go do with it. I may pick up issue 2 or not. I don't know. I'm still up in the air. It didn't stick with me very well. So I would say 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. I wish something was a little bit more that stood out and made me want to read more, but unfortunately it did not. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, number 5. Did you read this yet? I kind of like this series. I definitely like the darker series better, but this one's kind of fun. It's a magical girl book. She, last issue, everybody gets kidnapped, and so her and Salem, she kind of magics up and like gets all these magic artifacts to kind of help her go fight whatever's out there. And so she goes and finds everybody and fights and uses all her little magical things and saves everybody. Just a cute book, fun, art's really cute. I really like it. So 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. Nobleman, issue 1. It is a indie book, and I see why it's an indie book. It's okay. Two guys are friends. The friend gets caught doing something he's not supposed to, so he sends the files to his other friend, and it's kind of in the future. And they're all supposed to be ninja. These 2 guys are fighters, and like I don't know. Like it's okay. I've read worse, but this one definitely I will not read number 2. So 1 out of 5 unicorn horns. Same thing with Radical Rain. It's a indie book, and it was okay. I didn't quite understand some of the character names. Got confusing. Like I don't know who was who, and so people were wanting this information. She found out this information, but at the beginning of the book, like her family gets killed, and so she wants to avenge them. But then they don't bring that up ever again, and so I don't know if they're gonna bring that up in another group, other things. 1 out of 5 unicorn horns. I don't think I'll read it again. I mean, the art was okay, and it just wasn't that interesting, unfortunately. Supergroup Go. So, Nobleman and Radical Rain were indie books, and they were actually pretty decent indie books. Like, they were okay. I didn't, it just wasn't my thing. I don't think I'll read them again, but I didn't hate myself for reading them. Unfortunately, Supergroup Go, I did hate myself for reading this. It was the most convoluted, confusing, horrible dialogue. The bubbles, none of the bubbles like connected to people. They were all just bubbles, so they were just like word bubbles, and so you had to guess who it went to. Like they were different colors, so I didn't realize that till half the book, that there were different colors for different people. But then I didn't know any of the characters, so I didn't know who. The first half of the book, I didn't know who was speaking. I just know people were talking, and the premise was super convoluted. I don't know any of the the art was just so weird, and I didn't understand anything. It was very confusing. I will not pick up but this is number 3, so I give it that maybe I just came into some shit, but I didn't know about. But no, I will not be picking up number 4, and I will not be going back to read the other ones, because this one was just, I don't know. There was like luchadors, and they had robot suits at some point, and they called down, one guy wanted to be the best, and he was fighting everybody, and I don't know. Super confusing. The Protectors, number 1, another indie comic. Super, as we're like, at least Radical Rain, Nobleman had a different kind of premise. The Protectors kind of went the opposite direction, and they had no premise. Their premise was basically everything that everybody's ever said. A guy's really good he's a really good soldier. He comes back, and all of a sudden his girlfriend's a telepath, and then he's gonna go fight these guys at his lab, and then the lab, all of a sudden they've been testing these suits. Everything seemed super tropey, super convenient, had no weight to it. It was just. So, needless to say, 1 out of 5 unicorn horns. Rat Queens, 5 out of 5 unicorn horns. I love this book. It is freaking hysterical. The characters are fun. The premises are outrageous and weird. The bad guys are stupid. I mean, it's just good. Dialogue is point. It's like reading. If the Reavers, if the little tribal girl had her own book, it would be Rat Queens. So Rat Queens is just really, really good. I really like it. 5 out of 5 unicorn horns. Gogor number 5 finished. It just kind of ended really weird, but I guess the writer wrote a little thing at the end, and he talked about how he didn't have enough cells, and unfortunately he had things planned out further, and he appreciated everybody, which was really nice, but it just didn't work out, I guess, for him. So sadly, that book is gone, but it was okay. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. King Thor, issue number 1. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Starting off a Thor story with his daughters and stuff, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like Thor versus Loki again, but now his daughters are there. That's the end of it. Like Thor versus Loki fight, and the Venom, the symbiote,
Cruel.
Thank you. Is possessed Loki, and so now Loki is part Venom thing, and then now the god that made the symbiote is
no.
Yes, he's back. I guess I'm supposed to be concerned about that. Invisible Woman. Have you read Invisible Woman? You're not missing much. It's very boring. Like, for a spy book, it's super, super boring. Like, I don't feel like they have... I don't know why. As a spy book, it's just... I don't know if it's because Sue Storm's so wholesome that they are trying to make her into a bad girl, and it doesn't work. So I'm very disappointed in this book, sadly. 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. Black Cat is surprisingly funny. I just wish the art was better, because the art is really sad. It's like, it looks like a really good artist is just like super pressed for time, because some of the panels actually look decent, and then some look like he's just like, we get the face here, we do some hair, and we make it look like a person. Like, so I really wish the art was a little bit more tight and a little bit better, but I guess it is what it is. But the dialogue is pretty funny, and the premises are pretty cute. Like, I think they're, like, when she robs Doctor Strange, now she's robbing the Fantastic Four. It's pretty funny. IDW Starcadia Quest. I got about 3 pages in and I just quit because the dialogue is horrid. The characters, I don't even know who's what. I don't understand any of this. It is sadly, I don't get it. I tried, and I really wanted to because it looks really super cutesy, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it missed the mark, sadly. So I hope somebody finds this book entertaining, but I was not one of them. So 1 out of 5 unicorn horns. Hopefully it'll find an audience. And that, I think, is the last one that I read. As if that wasn't enough. Yep. So, lots of books this week. A lot of my time that I downloaded because I still have a stack of paper books that I haven't read yet. Outer Darkness being one of them. I'm super excited. I can't wait to read that. But until then, we hope you can like, share, and subscribe. If you get a chance, ring the bell so you can be notified when I post videos, because a lot of times I have a hard time posting them on other places, just because I get super busy with all the stuff that I wrote myself into. But until then, we hope your pull list is full. Bye!